think I mentioned that when I was at the school. And back to what I was doing. Let me see if they come back. Oh, it is. Oh my gosh. Hi, Diamond. Okay, so you guys see this screenshot, like, so I met a lot of celebrities and stuff. I was at the movie screening last night. Well, I only met Tiana Taylor, but but I saw Leo DiCaprio, I saw Tiana Taylor, I saw Regina Hall, and a lot of different stars. And then I found this magazine with this guy. This came out September 2025, but I did go to the screening and said the Leonardo DiCaprio performance is always an intense spirit. How Howard Hughes loses his mind, Jordan Belfort debasing himself, Hugh Glass surviving against all odds. We are watching one of Hollywood's greatest of all time at work. His latest film, one battle after another, is no exception, which is what I saw last night. Oh my gosh. So I'm gonna do like a little recap. I'll read some of this. Okay, DiCaprio plays Bob Ferguson, a washed-up revolutionary and dad to a teenage daughter, Willa, played by Chase Infinity in her first film role. Opposite him are Tiana Taylor as the absent mom, Benicio del Toro as the ally, and Sean Penn as the villain. One battle after another is a big movie, an action film with car chases, a spy craft yarn with a Clementine agent who's drunk and stoned, and a political thriller with um, with reverberations for our interesting times. But at its core, the movie is a story about a father and daughter and what it means to show up for the people you love. It's also very funny. Okay, so the writer and director is Paul Thomas Anderson, whose films like Boogie Nights, Magnolia, and There Will Be Blood are operatic renderings of human fertility. The movies are the I'm not gonna embarrass yourself. Let me go back. The serial and often haunting. They can also be hilarious, and they're always wildly entertaining. One battle after another is his first film with DiCaprio. Both men rarely give interviews, and their life and work are the subject of bottomless curiosity and speculation. This summer, they had two conversations, one in Leo's kitchen, another over the phone. They recorded their talks and gave the transcript to Esquire, which we edited and condensed. Anderson also photographed DiCaprio for us in Los Angeles. We gave them some prompts, some of which they indulged, others not so much, but the result is rare glimpse into the minds of two Hollywood's most daring and original men. Oh, you can't hear me? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? It's still muffled. Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Okay, can you hear me now? Hi, can you hear me? It's better. Okay, well that was what it was then. Okay, so some people left. That's probably why. But I went to a movie screening yesterday, and it was with starring Leo DiCaprio, and so I got a chance to see him in person. So if you would like to check out my short video that I posted a little clipping of like me at the screening last night, and there was Tiana Taylor was there. It was Leo DiCaprio, Regina Hall, and some of the bigger stars. And so I remember that I got this issue, this magazine, and it just so happens to talk about the movie that I watched last night. And so I was reading a little bit of the passage. It was called One Battle After Another. And it was a movie screening, and I got a chance to meet Tiana Taylor, and I took a picture with her, and that was completely awesome. It made my night. And I have videos and footage of the whole panel because all the actors were there. And so um, I was reading a little passage. I don't want to bore you guys, but I'm gonna read it anyways. I've been on here all this time and you guys could barely hear me, so that's crazy. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of give you like a little overview. Okay, so Leo DiCaprio performance is always intense experience. However, Hugh just loses his mind. Jordan Belfort debasing himself. Hugh Glass surviving against all odds. We are watching one of Hollywood's greatest of all times at work. His latest film, One Battle After Another, is no exception. DiCaprio plays Bob Ferguson, a washed-up revolutionary and dad to a teenage daughter, Willa, played by Chase Infinity in her first film role. Opposite him are Tiana Taylor as the absent mom, Benicio del Toro as the owlie, and Sean Penn as the villain. So, One Battle After Another is a big movie. It's an action film with car chases, a spy craft yarn with a clandestine agent who's drunk and stoned, and a politician thriller with revelations for our interesting times. But at its core, the movie is a story about a father and a daughter and what it means to show up for people who love you. It's also very funny. Okay, so the writer and director is Paul Thomas Anderson, whose film like Boogie Nights, Magnolia, and There Will Be Blood are operatic renderings of human fertility. The movies are visceral and often haunting. They can also be hilarious, and they're always wildly entertaining. One Battle After Another is his first film with DiCaprio. Both men rarely give interviews, and their life and work are subject of bottomless curiosities and speculation. This summer, they had two conversations, one in Leo's kitchen, another over the phone. They recorded their talks and gave the transcripts to Esquire, which we edited and condensed. Anderson also photographed DiCaprio for us in Los Angeles. We gave them some prompts, some which they indulged, others not so much, but the result is a rare glimpse into the minds of two Hollywood's most daring and original men. So it was really cool to see DiCaprio in person. So I can read some of the interview if I'm not boring you, but I find it interesting. So Paul Thomas Anderson, any regrets? Leo DiCaprio, I'll say it, even though you're here. My biggest regret is not doing Boogie Nights. It was a profound movie of my generation. I can't imagine anyone but Mark Wahlberg in it.
When I finally got to see that movie, I just thought it was a masterpiece. It's ironic that you're the person asking the questions, but is it true? Anderson, why did it take us so long? DiCaprio, I know one battle after another has been on your desk for a long time. It was a personal story for you in a lot of ways, and certainly per- pertinent to the world that we're living in right now. But ultimately, wanting to do this movie was pretty simple. I've been wanting to work with you, Paul, for some time, like 20 years now, and I love the idea of the washed up revolutionary trying to erase his past and disappear and try and live some sort of normal life, raising his daughter. Anderson, it's a nice character, someone who starts out wanting to charge the world on the fear left but gets increasingly cranky and closes off as he gets older. DiCaprio, and lives in a constant paranoia. It's a fun creating a character that's weirdly a hybrid of both political parties and beliefs, and certainly not father of the year. Yeah, he did abuse drugs and alcohol during his rearing of his daughter, but he was proud of the way that she, you know, turned out. But you guys got to watch it. I don't want to tell, too much. Okay, Anderson. No one can outrun what's inevitable, which for him is to be a father and to have another generation come up from behind. So what's inevitable is middle age. What's inevitable is complacency. What's inevitable is looking at the next generation with disdain simply because they're not doing it how you think they should, which is just a code for they're not doing it like we did it. And so what comes next is being cranky no matter how liberal and rah-rah you were in your youth. When you get down to the mundane, daily battles of life, they're just wear on you. DiCaprio, especially if you're living in secrecy, secrecy, what are your options? You're going to sit there and microdose and smoke pot and watch old revolutionary movies and not have a cell phone, right? Which became another huge theme in this movie, too. It was not having a cell phone. Mm-hmm. But you'll see, his daughter was something else with that idea. Okay, Anderson, I'm going to ask you a question and you're going to answer as quickly as you can. If you don't know how old you are, how old are you right now? DiCaprio, 32. Anderson, good answer. What you'll have to do is investigate what happened when you were 32, and then you're going to discover and uncover why that was your answer. Here's how that relates to your character in the film. He fell in love with a woman named Perfidia. She broke his heart into a million pieces, put it back together, smashed it again, put it back together, and smashed it once more for good measure. She left him stuck in time, unable to move forward. What's inevitable with that broken heart is to sit around with it for a long time and stew in it. All you do is stay in one place. By the way, my answer was 27. Anderson, by the time I came to you 4 or 5 years ago, the script was probably 80% there. I had never quite figured out the story's police policies on phones. DiCaprio, you were always into the idea of a no phones world. Anderson, I knew it had to be addressed. You brought me to the idea that Willa having a phone is a choice to rebel against her father's wishes. Now that was a good idea. It's always fun when that happens with a new idea. The immediate shift where you lean into something that you were entirely opposed to. The movie benefited from it. I thought it was interesting that, he didn't want her to have a phone, especially in today's day and age. Okay. But it was for safety purposes because of the lifestyle that they, had lived in the past. So, him and his ex. Okay. DiCaprio. It's about the disconnect between generations. It's about how this daughter and father relate to one another, and that we are living in a completely different world than the next generation. We think we understand it, but we don't, and we sure don't. That this is how they communicate. Anderson, if you're from a generation that either enjoyed or was driven mad by mystery of wondering where somebody is or when they might call next, or thinking I have to rush home to answer machine to find out if somebody's calling. Image, if someone had said you could walk around with an answering machine in your pocket, to her generation point. Why would I not let somebody know where I am every second of the day? I don't understand what your problem is. Why wouldn't you film yourself dancing? How could you dance and not film yourself? That's right, because we put everything on film, everything on social media, everything we make a moment out of in today's society. Like, and I think it's because we're a generation and we're so used to being entertained. That's why. Okay, DiCaprio. I remember with my little sister and her friends, they asked, what was it like? I lived in the days where there was an answering machine, and when you had plans, you either needed to be there on time or you call on a payphone to check your answering machine to see if they left a message, to see if they were going to be late. And then you'd have to call their answering machine so they can check their answering machine. They were like, you guys must have never had plans. How did you ever communicate? There was a lot of waiting around. You had to stick to your word. Well, that's true. But I wasn't even there back then. I grew up with phones, but I had like a pay phone that I had to add minutes to when I was a kid. Okay, do you remember when we were both starting? Okay, this is Anderson. If you met anybody from the generation before us and they were successful Hollywood players, they had answering services. That was like, holy shit, they don't have an answering machine, they have an answering service. DiCaprio, I tried to explain beepers. If it was stressful, you say your number and then 911, 911, 911. That means stop whatever you're doing and call. Anderson, well, beepers were generally for drug dealers. DiCaprio. DiCaprio says, all my friends had beepers. They would click it on their jeans, and you run around, beep, 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 just looking like, oh, my homie's calling. Where are you? Anderson. Here's a question Esquire wants me to ask. You turned 50 last year. Does it feel like a natural time for reflection? DiCaprio. You turned emotionally 35 last year. Anderson. Your age is 50, but your emotionally maturity is 32. How does that feel? DiCaprio. So, they're asking about age. Anderson. They're asking if it's a natural time for reflection. DiCaprio. Well, it creates feelings like you have a desire to just be more honest and not waste your time. I can only imagine how the next few decades are going to process. I look at my mother, for example, and she just says exactly what she thinks and wastes no time. She spends no time trying to fake it. Anderson, yeah. DiCaprio, being more upfront and risking having things fall apart or risk the disagreement or risk going your separate ways from any type of relationship in life. The personal, professional is that you just don't want to waste your time anymore. You have to be, you have just be much more upfront. It's almost a responsibility because much more of your life is behind you than it is ahead of you. Anderson, that's a good answer. DiCaprio, what was it about this movie that made you want to dedicate 20 years to it? Anderson, political films can be like eating your vegetables. There are many exceptions of great films that are political. However, right now, only thing I want to see is a story that I can relate to. And the only thing that matters is the emotional. The emotional comes from the story of a family. It comes from the way we love and hate. When film preach, I stop listening. It's impossible to keep pace with the state of the world. It is why it's best to focus on the things that never go out of style. You can figure out what never goes out of style by realizing what's in a story is going to be the thing an audience really cares about. Our question is, can a father find his daughter? Or what does it mean to be a family? DiCaprio, you are considered a very art house director. Would you call it that? What do you call it? Anderson, well, there's no need to be insulting. DiCaprio, no. What's the term? You don't do incredibly commercial movies? Let's put it that way. You're a writer-director. You have your own vision. What's the term? Anderson, box office challenge. DiCaprio, no. You don't you do appreciate big budget movies, like a Marvel film. I've heard you talk about Terminator 2, about going to film school, and somebody saying, if you're here to make Terminator 2, you're in the wrong place. And you said, well, fuck that. Terminator 2 is a fucking great movie. This to me is a Paul Thomas Anderson version of an action film. I was like, car chases, how Paul's going to do French connections. What is he going to do that we haven't seen Michael Bay do and make it a Paul thing? Anderson, 20 years ago, I started writing this story, and the kernels of it were basically just to write an action car chase movie. I would go to the story every couple years. Sometimes I thought I would like to adapt Thomas Pynchon's Vineland, a book written in the 80s about the 60s, but I was looking at it in the early 2000s thinking of what the story means at that time. Cut to a whole other story that I had floating around that was about a female revolutionary. In other words, for 20 years, I've had all these various stands in a way. None of them ever went out of style because whatever seems to be happening politically seems to always be the same. Same shit, different year. DiCaprio. A lot of people say one battle after another was based on Vineland. I never read Vineland. You never spoke to me about it. There's a lot of references to the book, but I since have read it and I've seen some of the roots of where this story came from and the whole idea of what happened to these revolutionaries in the past in their post 60s life. Anderson. Violin was always going to be too hard to adapt, so I stole the parts that spoke to me and just started running like a thief. I guess that's what all writers do. We're fucking thieves. I always like the structure of Les Miserables. You have a wild and crazy first act, and then you settle into the story, and you must pick up the pieces of the wreckage of you must reckon with the choices you made in the first act. This is a very good dramatical structure. Well, that's how the story went. DiCaprio. There are themes of Star Wars and Terminator 2 in this, and it's interesting to see how you merge your visions of the zestiness of what every I gotta go to the next page. Everyone's talking about today politically, but with these very relevant themes for a larger audience. Whew. Well, this is a good interview. I'm like, oh, I got to still read it. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna read just a little bit more because they go on and on. But it was a really good movie, and it did have a lot of revolutionary theme. Tiana Taylor and Leo DiCaprio was the boyfriend of Tiana Taylor, and you guys have to go see this movie. But it was interesting. She played that role very well. It goes well with her, and she's kind of like a tomboy. But she has an amazing body, and so there was some, sex appeal, and there was a little bit of a twist to it, but it was good. It was really good. Okay, so I'm gonna read a little bit more. Okay, Anderson, those mythical characters, at least the ones those Star Wars characters are based on, have been around forever, and they never go out of style. It is the classic Nothing Changes, the story of a chosen child in opposite forces in pursuit of her magic. This is an oldie but a goodie, and certainly one that fits these themes. Um, okay, one that fits these themes. Okay, in these times, once you settle into a story that works, the next question is the tone. And our tone ended up reflecting everyone's character. Our tone reflects the absolute absurdity of human nature. DiCaprio, my character, is not your typical heroic Terminator type character that has any superpower and any ability, special ability, but he's just relentless, you know. Anderson. Well, that goes back to DiCaprio, the Bad News Bears. He's in the Bad News Bears of modern day dad heroes. Okay, Anderson. That's right. He got a lot of Walter Matthau from Bad News Bears. When I watch the Mission Impossible films, they usually start out with the code that Tom Cruise has to give back and forth. I would daydream what would happen if Ethan Hunt forgot the code word just once. With the other end up with the other end of the line say it's okay. I know you're Ethan Hunt, let's just get on with it. Or would they say, sorry, I know you're Ethan Hunt, but I still need the password. Oh hey Tony. How you doing? I'm just reading this because last night I went to a movie screening with Leonardo DiCaprio. He was on the panel, and it was Tiana Taylor, Regina Hall, and a lot of different actors. And so it was for this movie. It was with him, and I put it in my little short or reel or whatever. So you guys have to go check it out. I actually went to 2 movie screenings. I went to Knives Out earlier in the morning, and that was a murder mystery that I watched. That was a really good movie too. Yeah, Knives Out, and then I went to see, and that's gonna be on Netflix like the 13th of December. You saw which one you see? You see Knives Out, and you see the Leonardo DiCaprio movie One Battle After Another. You saw both of them? Oh, you saw my movie for reals. Oh yeah. You said it looked like I had a good time. I did have fun. And it's funny because I found this magazine laying around, and I said, oh wow, I gotta go back and read the interview so people can get a little bit. I don't want to bore you guys on here, but I wanted to read a little bit of the interview between DiCaprio and Anderson. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so I'm just gonna start with DiCaprio. We had a lot of talks about how to create a heroic character and bring a sense of reality and not have it be the typical choices that we've always seen. I said, okay, so I did appreciate that. They made this movie very human and relatable. And I thought that it was funny. Mhm. Okay. We had a lot of, okay, so I did like that. You said to me, it's in the relentless pursuit of wanting to protect his daughter, not giving up, being there for her. It's a story about a father and a daughter and what you do in certain positions, even if you're up against all odds. There was some point in which we were talking about him going to John Wick's extremes. I was like, no, give me a shittier gun. Or what if there is no gun? Eliminating the violence from this character was the key to unlocking him. Anderson, I also thought it was interesting that we never quite knew exactly how it was going to end. I sure didn't know how it was going to end, but I liked where we landed. The dramatic center of it was for Willa to say, "Who are you?" Saving the day was you saying, "I'm your dad." Okay, he said, "Did you have a part in a TV show too?" I saw that as well. Yeah, I was on Law and Order. That was what I had posted. Yeah, I played a police officer. Yeah, that was cool. I was on Law and Order, and I was next to Mariska Hargitay in that clip. Okay, where was I? Okay, DiCaprio, and that's what the story. Okay, I'm just gonna start with Anderson. She said, "I'm doing big things." She said, "You see me." Yeah, that was cool. You know, I really be grinding and working hard for a long time. But sometimes it's like, now people finally get to see what I be doing. You know, and there's no telling where else I could be on TV because I surely don't look for everything I do. I was actually looking for another video of me on Law and Order, and that one popped up. You said you're gonna need my autograph. Oh yes, before I blow up. Yeah, that's cool. This is, my whole family is so proud of me and so excited. So like, I spend time, studying my craft and practicing as much as I can, and so that way I can be as prepared as possible when the time comes. Take this acting thing very serious. Because even when I read stuff like this and I watch movies and then I listen to interviews, or at least I read about it, it's like um, it actually trains me to really be able to get into this. Yes, I've been doing modeling too. It's all good. hmm It's always good exposure, different things. I've done some theater and acting really all along. People don't know that, but I did theater and stuff when I was in high school, and I did some commercial type of things. So like I've had some practice, but I've always been passionate about acting and doing different things in the industry as it relates to that in film. But I love modeling too. I have a passion for modeling. Okay, so let me get back to this. Anderson. I also thought it was interesting that we never quite. Okay, I read that. Okay. Anderson, if it's a Saturday and I'm flipping around thinking, what do I want to watch? Chances are I'm going to land on something that has some kind of action, adventure element to it. The first thing that pops to my mind is Midnight Run. I've been dreaming of trying to make a film as fun as Midnight Run since I first saw it. DiCaprio, a masterpiece. Okay, Anderson, I saw it 3 or 4 times this week. It came out. It was the high watermark of a film, great film for a broad audience. Usually we shove an action movie into a section of the room that disallows us from taking it too seriously. There are exemptions like Mad Max, but for the most part, we don't let our action films cross with our most dramatic stories, as if you can have good acting in some driving a car or shooting a gun, but Midnight Run is the total package. Have you guys seen Midnight Run? I'm gonna look for it as soon as I get off here so I can watch it. I'm actually gonna underline this in the magazine so I know to go look for it later. Midnight Run, I'm gonna underline it. So I'm sure I'm gonna check it out. He said, "You want to be an actor, son?" That's the guy right there that's acting. Anderson, do you ever watch any of your old movies? DiCaprio. You never seen it. DiCaprio says, "I rarely watch any of my films, but if I'm being honest, there's one that I've watched more than others. It's the, what is it, Aviator? Did y'all see that? That's simply because it was such a special moment to me. I had worked with Marty Scorsese on Gangs of New York. Did I get to meet Leo? I wish. I got the videos, all I got. By the time I made it down there, Leo had ran out of there. Security came and he hurried up and ran down the little ramp. I'm like, no, he gone. He going. He going. I said, he going. Shoot, I tried to hurry up. I couldn't get there fast enough. Man. But, you know, Tiana Taylor was mingling with some of the people. And, you know, she wanted to talk and stuff. So I was able to catch her because, you know, she was still chatting with some, you know, fans and other people. But he hurried up and zipped out of there. I would have had to be sitting close to be able to, like, as soon as they got done, I would have had to pop up and ask for that picture. That was fun. Okay, so I might go back and look at the Aviator. I might go back and look at that and see what that's about. Yep, he is. He seems like he is low-key. He hurried up and ran out of there. Okay, it says, and I've been toddling around a book on Howard Hughes just for 10 years. Like, he probably don't want to be bothered with all them people. And see me, I like the attention. Unless, the only way that I wouldn't, like, stop and mingle and talk to people, take pictures of, you know, as a celebrity, is if I wasn't feeling well. Like, if I'm starting not to feel well or something like that, I could see, like, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. But, like, if I'm feeling pretty good that day, I like interacting. Like, when people come on here and talk to me, you guys don't know how much that lights me up. I love people interacting. Even though, like, it's kind of weird because I'm an introvert, so I'm not, like, the most social person all the time. But, like, I do enjoy, you know, talking to my fans and, you know, coming online. I love coming online. I love talking to y'all. And then when I be in certain environments, certain social environments, I just be like, ooh, I'm so excited to mingle or whatever. Okay, so let me just finish this last paragraph. Okay, so he been toting around the book for 10 years. I almost did it with Michael Mann, but there were conflicts and I ended up bringing it into Marty. I was 30. It was the first time an actor I got to feel implicity part of the production rather than just an actor hired to play a role. I felt responsible in a whole new way. I've always felt proud and connected to that film as such a part of my growing up in the industry and taking a role of a real collaborator for the first time. I can't stop and watch it anytime. Okay, so it sounds like they had a nice long, hour-long interview where they talked about stuff related to the films industry. Acting is a real job, y'all. It may seem easy, but it's so hard sometimes. But I love it, and it's good. Ooh, they got Marlon Wayans. I'm gonna read his article next. We haven't seen this man in a long time. What happened to Marlon Wayans? Oh, everybody left. How y'all gonna leave without saying goodbye? Sorry to cry. There's so much to say goodbye. Oh, somebody's texting me. Well, I guess that's my cue to leave. Everybody left. So, bye, y'all.